we are here to focus on a very important training topic, the privilege of agency. So privilege of agency, let's start with definitions. Breaking it down first, the Webster Dictionary definition of privilege, which is a special right, an advantage, or immunity granted, available only to a particular person or group. Definition of agency. In social science, agency is defined as the capacity of individuals to act independently and to make their own free choices. One's agency is one's independent capability or ability to act on one's will. Privilege of agency. So first, why we as highly sensitive entrepreneurs and leaders tend to blank out when we hear this. The concept of privilege of agency is very foreign to us. When we are untrained as highly sensitives and operating, particularly from our shadows and our coping mechanisms, we tend towards shadows such as people-pleasing, shadows such as perfectionism, shadows such as over-responsibility or dipping into sympathy rather than our strength of empathy. And from that place of shadows and coping, we associate something like privilege of agency with narcissism. And the highly sensitive's relationship with narcissists, I like to say, first, there's a phrase, just a commonly known social phrase, which is that a narcissist will always land on their feet. I like to say a narcissist will always land on their feet because there's always a highly sensitive there to catch them. So when we're in our shadows and in our coping mechanisms, we have given up our privilege of agency in service to someone else's needs. The majority, if not all of the time. So from here, let's look at what privilege of agency is not. Privilege of agency is not an excuse to act out from your shame shield. Shame shields are against, towards, or away. Privilege of agency is not permission to be aggressive by lashing out. Privilege of agency is not permission to be passive aggressive by avoiding. Privilege of agency is not permission to blame or shame others or yourself. Privilege of agency is not an excuse to go into hiding, pushing, or combo plattering as a way of coping. Privilege of agency is not an excuse to use spiritual sabotage. And privilege of agency is not the shadows of people-pleasing, perfectionism, analysis paralysis, or over-responsibility, or overprotection, or any other shadow behavior. Let's take a breath in and let it out. So what is privilege of agency? Privilege of agency is a healthy approach to making decisions, using discernment, and setting boundaries based on your highly sensitive strengths, such as deep thinking, deep listening, your strength of intuition, and your ability to be excellent with language. Privilege of agency is the gateway to your essential self. So why is privilege of agency important for us as highly sensitive entrepreneurs and leaders? And why is it important now more than ever? So first of all, it's important for us as highly sensitive entrepreneurs and leaders because our nervous system is wired differently. So a lot of the times, what you need for your well-being and to operate at your ultimate best is different than those around you, which means that your decisions are going to be different than those around you, which means that then as a highly sensitive entrepreneur, your marketing is going to be different than those around you. The way that you approach selling is going to be different than those around you. The way that you set up the operations of your business is going to be different than those around you. And you don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to try to fit yourself into someone else's model or mode. That is your privilege of agency to set things up so that you can be as successful as possible for who you are as a highly sensitive. Why is this more important now now more than ever? What's happening in the world right now is terrible. It is awful. I personally have been managing waves of grief at multiple levels and layers. It doesn't make sense to go into here now for this training. But what does make sense is to be very, very conscious about the decisions you're making, what you're discerning, and the difficult conversations that may or may not need to be had in order for you to be operating at your best as a highly sensitive entrepreneur and leader now more than ever. For yourself and your own preservation, for the preservation of the relationships that are important to you, and for the preservation of the service you are here to provide. Now is not the time to flake out. Now is not the time to go missing. Now is not the time to engage in shame shields. Now is not the time to be entitled queen or scullery maid. Now is the time to be the regal king, to be the regal queen. Now is the time to fulfill your royal advisor role.